right, thank you for staying with Daybreak and just in time for State of the Nation. Honorable Edwin Sifuna is here with us, Senator for Nairobi. Asante sana for making time. Honorable Danson Mungatana is also here with us, Senator for Tana River. Thank you so much for making time. And Honorable William Kisang for the very first time as the Senator of Elgeyo Marakwet on State of the Nation. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you.
So let's take a look at the standard front page. Let's start from there. We'll talk about many issues. We'll talk about the IBC, we'll talk about Parliament and LGBTQ, we'll talk about Matiang'i in Britain, but mostly start with the standard front page. More tax pain as goods prices shoot up again. Already reeling under the effects of high cost of living, Kenyans have to dig even deeper into their pockets as prices rise with the implementation of the new tax measures. Among others, beer, soft drinks, and beauty products are going up. Senator Sifuna, I'll start with you on this because this is part of the demands that Azimio made. In fact, this is part of the basis of mass protests that should be starting in the next 6 to 7 days. But it seems it is still going higher, not coming lower the way Azimio had demanded.
Yes, thank you, Trevor. First of all, your viewers have noticed that every time I come to this show, I am paired up against two members of the Kenya Kwanza Brigade. Because I personally don't mind, but they have asked me to ask this question because I know it takes a lesser effort to defend the truth than the opposite. But they want to understand why it's not possible for you to have an additional member of Azimio there.
You'll get,
or at least from time to time, you put us against one. Like Danson Mungatana can defend the entire government on his own. But the question, even him, the question that you have asked, of course, Kenyans continue to feel the pain. Just yesterday, Trevor, and I want to illustrate this, I bought tokens for my house. Just for comparison, and if anybody will doubt, I want to show them. In July of 18th July last year, 3,000 shillings got me 137 units. And if you look at the fuel charge then, it was 635 shillings. Only 1,728 out of 3,000 shillings went to the token amount. If you look at the cost yesterday of fuel, of electricity, the same 3,000 shillings got me only 117 tokens, units of electricity. And the amount that was spent on the token is 1,474, which is less than half. So that more than 51% of the money you spent on electricity goes to taxes and levies. And I am happy my brother, after his election, yesterday he was also elected as the vice chair of the Energy Committee. I am sure he is not happy with the current state of things. I'm sure his constituents are not happy with the state of things. We were thinking that, there was an undertaking from this current administration that within, I think they said 90 days, that we would see a reprieve. But what we are seeing is that they have been unable to come up with any concrete plan that would reduce the cost of living. You are talking about the price of sukuma wiki and tomatoes jumping by 11% and 7.8% respectively. If we get to sukuma wiki being unaffordable, my brother, because sometimes even if you don't have a protein in your meal, you can have your slice of ugali and sukuma wiki and you call it a day. But even sukuma wiki now is becoming unaffordable. Tomatoes are becoming unaffordable. So what we want to see, and this is why when we were at the Jivanji prayer rally, we gave the administration 14 days to come clean, to come true on their own promises, to lower the cost of living because we believe there are things that can be done. Trevor, when Uhuru Kenyatta was leaving office, and this is something that people argue about, but we did it ourselves practically, the price of a 2 kg unga at Naivas was 100 shillings for a 2 kg packet. Right now, it's almost 190 shillings. They told us,
then.
Yes, and that is what we are coming to. We asked at Jivanji that, yes, as you plan all these other macroeconomic strategies to reduce the cost of living, at the very minimum, for now, so that you assuage the pain of Kenyans, can you please bring back those subsidies? The price of fuel has skyrocketed, and it is what is resulting in this, bumper effect of having even the other prices of other commodities going low. So the government can choose that we assuage the suffering of Kenyans as of now, as they plan, as they put in place whatever mechanisms they want to put in place. I was surprised that one of their chief strategists, David Ndii, was telling the country on social media that there was never a promise by Kenya Kwanza to lower the cost of electricity. It's absolutely ridiculous. So you promise things when you are unable to deliver. You tell us that you never made that promise. Any reasonable government that wants to grow the economy, that wants to ensure that we are able to encourage investments in the country, must deal with the question of energy. Okay. We have made a commitment, at least at the Energy Committee prior to my brother joining, in honor of the late Namenge, the senior researcher in the Energy Committee. When we were in Dubai, we agreed that we must do at least just one thing, even if it is dealing with the fuel cost charge, which is the highest tax amount on your tokens, at 771 shillings out of 3,000, going to the fuel energy charge, which is as a result of us relying on thermal energy. Yeah, those diesel plants at Kipevu and the one in Muhoroni, we need to have a concrete plan to grow our geothermal and to grow the capacity of hydro, so that we move away from these thermal plants that are the most expensive item on our energy bills.
Okay. Honorable Kisang, is the country heading in the wrong direction or the right direction? I ask this because just recently there was an Infotrack poll. 62% of Kenyans said it's heading in the wrong direction. 22% say it's heading in the right direction. Having seen this on the front page of the Standard, is the country heading in the right direction or the wrong direction?
Thank you, Trevor. One day before I respond to that one, I want to take this opportunity to send my condolences to the family of the former Director General for CA. Wanguzi was a close friend of mine, and he was the one who was oversighting and regulating you in the sector. Secondly, Trevor, is the country is not going in the wrong direction. The Kenya Kwanza government have just been in government for less than, it's not yet 6 months. And you know very well, for the last 10 years or so, we have subsidized many things. The reason why you are seeing things going up this way, it is because of subsidies are coming to an end. And this was something that was going to happen, whether Kenya Kwanza taken over the government or Azimio, because it was coming to a close this year. So Sifuna actually should be truthful and should have said these things were going to happen. But as the Energy Committee, the three of us who are here, we are members of the Standing Committee on Energy in the Senate. And before I joined the committee already, there was a conversation that the reason why most of these prices, the reason why the cost of living is going up, it's basically because of power. If you go to Ethiopia, the cost of power is 10 times less than Kenya, if you import power from Ethiopia. So what we have said as a committee, we sat yesterday and we are doing an inquiry. We're doing an inquiry in the course of this month and next month. And our business as a committee is to ensure, as Honorable Sifuna said, to reduce at least one or two of the charges. Because the reason why it's expensive, it's not because power is expensive. Okay, one, thermal is very expensive. It's about 25 shillings. Hydro is about 5. We have solar energy. We have geothermal, which we are going next week to Naivasha, and we'll visit. So we will do this inquiry, and we want this use of thermal energy to come to an end, so that at least the cost of living can go down, prices of energy will go down, production will go down. So we are not heading in the wrong direction. It is only that it was bound to happen, and Kenya Kwanza government, they have plans. They have plans to ensure, the president said, give us time. 6 months to 1 year, and things will come down. You also know the reason why also prices are up and things are difficult, it is because of the debt. I think it is the Eurobond that is due this year. We are about to start paying. The budget, we've discussed just the budget policy statement this week. And we are actually supposed to have passed it yesterday or the day before yesterday, but we lacked quorum in Senate.
We'll get into that quorum.
We'll get into that.
Senate quorum hitch.
There was no twice actually because of just some petty issues that should have been resolved.
Okay.
There is a deficit of over 600 billion. Where are we going to get that money?
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Honorable Mugatana, is it the country heading in the right direction or the wrong direction, based on all this that you see?
God has given me and blessed me with 2 sons. There was a time one was unwell. He doesn't like injections. But when we went to the hospital, he was told, you have to take this injection. And we had a quarrel, a struggle about it. But finally, when he did it, it was painful for him from his perspective. But in fact, that injection was necessary for him to get better. So it was bad for him. But it had to be that way for the treatment to get going. We inherited an economy that was battered, an economy that was fake, running on subsidies of over 20 billion a month. 20 billion a month. And you're not getting this money paid to normal individuals. You are getting it paid to a cartel of people at the end of the production line. We cannot sustain that. There's no government that could sustain that. In the US, when they are making these tokens, food tokens, they give them to the lowest. So at least it's reaching the person who has a food coupon that he goes and he buys. And that the supermarket then goes and have it replaced for cash. It is reaching the actual person. But in Kenya, the guys at the top, they collude. They say, okay, we'll tell them we are selling unga at 100 shillings. There's no unga that was available at 100 shillings. Whenever you go there, you would find there is no unga. They were hoarding it. But still, some people would go and get that reimbursement. So we're talking about 20 billion. There was no government that was going to sustain that. Now, look at this situation. You inherit a battered economy. It is not your budget. That's why my colleague here, he's saying that even if it was the other side that took over government, it would still be inheriting a battered economy. So we inherited a situation that needed healing. And it was not our budget. It was not our economy. Our first budget is now, we are preparing for it. Now, let's just be honest. And even if we said 90 days, we were talking about having a supplementary estimate to try and start restructuring things, pulling this money here and reorganizing the budget. That's why we were talking about 90 days. But it's not enough because it's not our budget. I wanted to encourage Kenyans and tell them, we must go through the pain for us to get better. We must take the malaria queen, even if it tastes bad, for the malaria to go away. We must take the injection for us to be better. We are all, I don't know how you picked this panel, but the Honorable Kisang, we elected him the day before yesterday as our vice chair of the Senate Energy Committee. My brother here and learned friend, the Honorable Sifuna, a senator for Nairobi, he's in the Energy Committee. So I am in the Energy Committee. And he knows the discussions which are there. The problem of high power costs is a historical problem. Some people entered into very, very bad agreements with IPP, independent power producers, and they really loaded themselves. They were completely unfair agreements against the Kenya Power, where we were paying money even if we are not selling that power. We were paying at a very high cost, the same that the Honorable Sifuna talked about, those thermal powers and so on.
Yeah.
So we are in the process of correcting that in the Energy Committee.
Okay.
We said that we are going to investigate, we are going to sit with those people, we are going to find out how those agreements can be reviewed and how going forward we can get cheaper power. So going forward, I have a lot of faith that this medicine that we are injecting, it's going to work. I want to say one more thing before we leave that topic. Kenya's debt ceiling is 10 trillion. And from that debt ceiling, you have a debt limit from which we can actually maneuver within the fiscal space.
Yeah.
So right now, we can only borrow, the level we have put is 600 billion. That's the limit, okay? If it is 600 billion, the proposed budget, the 23-24 budget that we've started the cycle on, the Treasury is projecting that we are going to be in deficit of 720 billion. Now we are only allowed to borrow 600 billion. So you can already see that there is already a projection that we might overrun the debt limit by 120 billion.
Yeah.
So what are we supposed to do? We either go to foreign markets to borrow the money to support, or we go back to the local market. So the truth of the matter is, we have a process to go through.
Okay.
And we have to go through it in a methodical manner.
All right.
And I'm saying, for us to get better, let us look at the facts. Let us see the wound. The wound is bad. It's really bad. And I agree with the Honorable Sifuna. It is bad. But how do we solve the problem? Do we just take Vaseline and apply over the wound? No. We have to wash the wound.
Okay.
It will be painful. We have to put, that thing, the salt in it. It's painful. But eventually, we will get better. We have to be real. We cannot continue doing things, in a fake manner. Government will pay. Government will pay. There's no. The government is me and you. It's the taxes.
You see, Trevor, because he has spoken about chloroquine. I remember when we were growing up, there used to be a sweet called Patco.
Yes.
If we are taking chloroquine, can we all take chloroquine? But you cannot be putting Patco in your mouth, then you're giving me chloroquine. We are saying it is okay for us to say we were in a bad place and we need to heal.
Yeah.
But we need to see, all of us must be in that line to get an injection. When you see other people, for instance, there were reports that the office of the president has already gotten double of the allocation that used to be there. What is that allocation for? It is just for entertainment there, for eating tea and mandazi. When you see people coming up with ridiculous offices that are supposed to be a charge on the public purse, like the office of the spouse of the chief cabinet secretary, it tells you that there are people who are eating Patco and the rest of us are supposed to eat what? Chloroquine. We should all now come up with the office of the spouse of a senator. I don't know. The only problem would be people like Khalwale. They have more than one. So that the Kenyans can see that there is no intention whatsoever for this government to actually deal with the question of public spending. They are coming up, we have seen a short list of people to go into this office called CASS. We are talking about 2 billion shillings a year. That is going to be spent on these offices. 30 million shillings for a mortgage, 10 million shillings for a car, 1 million shillings every month in salaries and allowances, and then you are telling us to take chloroquine. Mheshimiwa Mungatana, please, let me finish.
Let me go on that one.
Let me finish and then you will go. On this question of energy, I was happy yesterday that there was a report that at least the government has lifted the moratorium on the negotiation of power deals between Kenya Power and these IPPs, because we went to Nyeri with Chairman Wamatinga, and we were visiting a solar plant. Somebody has put up a beautiful investment for years, but he's not able to be connected to the grid because of this moratorium that was placed on negotiations with Kenya Power. Yeah. What I would want us to do as members of the Energy Committee is to push for a moratorium on increases on electricity, because even as we speak now, Mheshimiwa Mungatana, your government through EPRA is conducting public participation so that they are allowed to do it, to increase the current rates of electricity. The future is bleak, my brothers. So what we need to do, can we agree, at least as members of the Energy Committee, that we will not allow EPRA to review prices upwards? Lastly, Trevor, when you talk about this pain that we are supposed to feel, this timeline is a shifting goalpost, because we were told 90 days. Mheshimiwa now is telling us 6 months to 1 year. I don't know where the start date is. We were told here, and you remember when we were with Senator Cherargei, that there was a crop that Cherargei was harvesting on his farm of maize, that once he harvested, he would inject it into the maize supply in the country, and that we would see, we would see a reduction of the prices of maize. When you talk about these subsidies and being told, oh, they were benefiting a cartel, the ordinary person in Mukuru kwa Njenga this morning does not care or know that cartel you're talking about. What they know is that they were buying paraffin at X amount when the subsidy was in place, and now they are unable to afford that liter of paraffin because the prices have gone high. You can't tell that person that there was a cartel. He can see practically that there is an increase in price. So what we're saying is, please bring back those subsidies for now. Lastly, on the question of debt, we were also told that the Kenya Kwanza government was going to stop public borrowing completely. They brought this budget policy statement in the Senate, and I was there when we were being briefed by the chair of the Finance Committee, Senator Ali Roba of Mandera. They are talking about borrowing almost 700 billion shillings, half of it from the domestic market. Actually, it's more than half of this particular amount. Yeah, is supposed to come from the domestic market, and then the rest has to be borrowed from outside. And this question of debt, I wish we had time to discuss, because we borrow and we all are on the hook and we all pay. But then our brothers, one time they tell us that you people in fact have no shares in this government. We all borrow, we all pay, but they use the money to develop the areas where the shareholders are. Which is why, and I am hoping that when this motion, I have brought a motion to censure the Deputy President for some of his pronouncements. I hope you will support me, because it is wrong. This money, all of us will pay, including our children.
True.
So you can't tell me that I have no stake. I sit at KICC across from Treasury. I see Treasury there. I know my money is going there, but I have no share.
No, you have.
When it comes out, there is no share.
You have share.
It's ridiculous.
Trevor, you know, Sibuna is not telling us the truth. That he's a shareholder, actually. Even the salary that he earns, it is coming from that particular house, that treasury. So he's a shareholder. And if you remember, when the budget is passed and the projects are done, they are not done in a particular region of the country. The president is the president of Kenya, and is a unifying factor. He's not the president of Kenya Kwanza. He's running the country as one. Recently, he came from Nyanza, and there are many projects that they promised, and they're going to be done. There are also ongoing projects that will be completed. So Sifuna is not the right.
So what did the DP mean when he said that this is like a company where there are people who have shares, there are people who have a lot of shares, there are others who have little shares, there are those who don't have?
Maybe we need to, you can invite him or go.
Yeah, that is the purpose of the motion. That's what we will be discussing.
You need to invite him and ask him. Because we are discussing, I believe he was misquoted. Yeah, I believe he was misquoted. What I wanted to say is on this energy, you can imagine the independent power producers give us 30% of the power in the country.
Yeah.
Kenyan, we get 70%. This 70%, they are paid 44% of the payments. While the IPPs who are giving us 30%, they are paid 56% of the payments. So that is a fallacy. That is serious. That's why we are saying we need to look at these agreements. Who are the people who signed? We need to surcharge some civil servants who committed, this is basically, it's economic crime.
Okay.
This is basically an economic crime.
All right.
So we need to look at this, and once, at least for this parliament, we need to do something so that by end of this year, Kenyans can get the relief. They can pay. If you pay 1,000, you should enjoy at least 70% of your money in your services.
Okay.
Not 48% and 52% is going to other things.
That's it. All right. Guadana.
Yes.
Yes, Trevor was going to say this, that I admire my leader. I call him my leader because although he's younger than me in the profession and everything, he's the Secretary General of the ODM party, and a very, very, very astute senator, one of those that really contributes and does his work properly. And I admire the fact that he's going for us. You know, he's saying, oh, you guys are taking part co. You know, he's saying that, look, your budget for the office of the president shouldn't be that way. You're increasing these appointments and what. Look, this is the level of intellectual engagement we want to have. First of all, what he's talking about is still in the media. We haven't really started examining the budget, you know, line by line. And what he's talking about is still just reports of the media, and media likes to sell its papers, and he knows that newspapers are not admissible as evidence in courts or in the Senate. So let him wait for the proper time and apply his intellectual mind, as we explained to him that this is the proposal that is there in the budget and why we need to put money here and there. Well, you heard that it was 9 billion. It's actually maybe 4.5 billion. The truth of the budget. You know, by then, media will have had their headlines, all their papers and gone. They even lied to Sifuna, and Sifuna has taken it, you know. But what I would advise my learned friend and colleague in the Senate, that we have a duty, and they have a duty, to actually examine and do the work. What I don't agree with them is when they leave the offices where they are supposed to do, and they go, you know, Jivanji Gardens, we are praying what? You should be coming here to intellectually engage us and tell us, look, Mngatana, what your people are saying is nonsense. What should happen is this.
Yeah.
That's the opposition that I truly hope will be. And I hope they will tap into this gentleman to be maybe even leader of opposition one day, not people who just wake up and say, I've been stolen, my votes are stolen.
Okay.
Oh, there are some things that need to be opened, servers. Oh, who told you, oh, there's some guy, we don't know his name. This is not, that kind of opposition has been overtaken by time. Okay. We need younger people, more vibrant people to come and engage, and we will be ready to answer every question, because I can guarantee him that the money, how we have arranged this budget, and I have some bit of knowledge on it, is we are going to put money where it's going to be productive. And we are going to defend that position properly. So if he sees we have CASs, for example, in a place, he needs to know that Honorable Ngatana, for example, I served as an assistant minister, which is maybe the equivalent of CAS, in previous government, in the Foreign Affairs Ministry. There is no way one minister can do that job. No way. You're supposed to be in charge of the desk in Asia, the desk in Africa, the desk in North America, the desk in Europe. You have engagements that cannot be handled below the level of minister. It has to be at a certain level upwards. You have engagements for permanent secretary. You have engagements at ambassadorial level. So you see, you just can't do it if you are one person. So we are going, I want him to come and say this is bad, and then we engage. Okay. And if they win the argument, we adjust. Okay. And it's the same thing I will tell him about all the other issues. We want, for me, by the way, I am one of those people who really believe that a strong and vibrant opposition that engages us will make sure that Kenyans at the end benefit. For example, he has talked about establishing of an office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary's spouse, and he's not liking it. We are going to put the justification when the budget time comes. If he doesn't like it and they say it, and we see it makes a point, it can be removed. And why not? Okay. Government is government. And when people, intellectual people, serious people, not harangas, but serious people engage and they make a point, I respect and I yield. I honestly, that's at the end of it, the Kenya people, they benefit.
So even essential motion, but we'll talk about that in let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about that shortly. Keep your views coming at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Is the hashtag Daybreak. See you shortly.